it's such a low bar to be considered a feminist in terms of women's tennis, and also to show that female faces in high places isn't enough.
Yeah.
You can't rely on that because Andy Murray.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say what's sad is tennis is actually one of the better sports for having a more equal, quote unquote, platform for women and men compared to a whole bunch of other sports, like football, for example. I mean, I don't really follow football because it doesn't interest me, but it might interest me more if the women were given more of a platform. I don't know, but I just feel like, in terms of the sporting world in general, women are featured much more, and yet there's still this massive gap in terms of equality in so many different ways. And that was all I wanted to say at that point.
Yeah, it's so like you can. There are characters. It's the character of these players that matters. If you think, it's just about skill, you can go, well, the men tend to be faster and stronger, so there's only any point in watching them. But you find like characters like Megan Rapinoe in American football. She's a fucking firecracker.
Yeah.
And you need to just go and you find people like that, and then you platform them, and then that raises all of it, and then suddenly everyone's going to be interested. That's the way you do. So in the American men and women's football teams have just won equal pay, so they get paid the same. So that's awesome. In terms of female faces in high places, I didn't come up with that. That's someone else's thing. I just think it really applies. Amélie Mauresmo, you said that she was the tournament director of the French Open.
She was this year, yes.
What was it she said about female tennis players?
I think she said, let me try and remember. She said,
it's like no one wants to watch women's tennis.
Something like, she had a particular word that she used, that it wasn't, she basically said it wasn't as entertaining, but I want to find the exact word, so bear with me while I do that.
It was boring.
It was less dynamic or something. Let me see.
Oh, yeah.
I did write it down in our WhatsApp, so feel free. I'm going to actually also send you a link to a particular character in the women's tennis game who I love, Yelena Ostapenko, who lost earlier in the week. And this little gif was her reaction to losing. But if you can share that on the pod, do feel free while I find what Mauresmo said.
Yes, I should be able to do that.
Cool.
Weed this bit out.
Yeah, feel free.
Though she was. Oh yeah, she fucked the chair up.
Yeah, she chucked her bottle so hard that it made the chair fall over. You have to throw a bottle pretty hard to do that. I mean, you could argue that's also quite violent. I don't know, but I found it hilarious. Again, I don't know whether that's because she's a woman that I found it hilarious, but it's also pretty violent. I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yes. I think I read an article about that. Where, what did it say? It was, this is so fucking telling about it. One of the Daily Mail articles says Tatiana Marie is the oldest player still going for glory at Wimbledon, just a year after the 34-year-old was on maternity leave. And she did this by beating Yelena Ostapenko.
Yes.
Now, the the line that caught me in this was she said, so it says, oh, it was her mum doing it, mum in Wimbledon. And what did she say? It was the most egregious thing I've ever read.
Mm.
So this is one part. So at 10:30 a.m., it was mum's turn. By 3:30 p.m., the world number 103 was in a Grand Slam final. Brace yourself. So it turns out an aging mother might be the story of these championships after all.
Aging mother, really?
A 35-year-old woman described as an aging mother, completely defined by
her role
she's
as a mother. Yeah. I mean, yes, it is good that she's doing that. That she has her 9-year-old daughter and her, I don't know how many months old other daughter with her, and her husband is her coach. Also, which must. So yeah, you've got Tatiana Maria, who has her 9-year-old daughter with her, and her, I don't know how many months old other daughter with her, and her husband, who's also her coach, which must be an interesting relationship. But to define her solely as a mother rather than a tennis player who happens to be a mother is just saying everything, really. And aging as well, and she's only 34, 35. Yeah, it's
that
not great.
absolutely gobsmacked me.
I mean, in tennis, it's quite old. It's getting towards retirement age. But then again, you look at like Venus and Serena, who are like nearly 40 or 40, even older than 40 now, and they're still playing. So, but anyway, I found Amelie Mauresmo's quote as newly, she was the new tournament director for the French Open this year, and she was asked about the really interesting scheduling for the women's and men's matches, where 18 out of 20 matches to start the day on the smaller show courts were women's matches, which is typically a quieter time, as I may have already mentioned, before everyone comes in to watch. So Catherine Whitaker of Tennis Podcast actually asked her about it and said, why can't it be 50-50 split? And Mauresmo replied saying, it's because women's tennis is not as appealing. And this is from a lady who used to be a professional tennis player and used to coach Andy Murray, and broke ground doing that. For the media were certainly surprised, taking it as a massive thing that suddenly a male tennis player had a female coach. Shock horror. And then she goes and says this. And I think she did apologize for it later and tried to establish what she was actually trying to say, but I think she was probably under a lot of pressure from other senior people within the tournament who happened to be men, and saying, oh, this is how this schedule's always been. You're going to keep doing it this way until you settle into the role or whatever else. And I think she was probably under a lot of pressure to keep things nice and steady and as they've always been. That's my read on it, but yeah, I just feel like there's more at play there for her to say that.
I feel like that comes back to a bit. So you say she was Andy Murray's coach, and Andy Murray is heralded as like the arch feminist ally of tennis because once he said, oh, what do you think about Thingy being the most Grand Slams? And she said, well, actually, Serena Williams has the most Grand Slams.
Yeah.
So he stated a fact and everyone lost their mind. Thinking, oh, he's the biggest feminist ever. But that's a very small thing. I don't know anything about his advocacy.
He does speak out a lot on these types of issues, generally more than other, or at least, I mean, I don't know, I'm talking about it from the point of view as a British person with British media sent into my eyeballs pretty much every day. So there is, when he says things and speaks out, they're going to be put out and highlighted. But I don't know whether other male players also do that, but I'm just not reading about it. But it certainly seems like Andy is outspoken on these types of issues more than other players, which is a good thing.
Yeah, and it does. It again. It just goes to show that you can't assume anything because
No,
Maresmo, you go, oh, she coached him, so that must mean that she's prioritizing, like,
women,
really
and
will be doing a
yeah,
different job. But again, it comes down to institutional culture and pressure.
very much.
And
I think
I've
that was
just
very
started,
much at play.
yeah, I've just started reading a book about the Stanford prison experiment. Have you heard of that experiment?
No, I haven't.
It's like the the ultimate example of how situations change people and can make them do unspeakable things. So they had 10, you might recognize it, had 10, 20 volunteers. 10 were assigned as prison guards,
Oh
and
yes,
then the other
no,
10
no, yes,
prisoners. And that that situation turned the prison guards into absolute monsters. And he argues that the situation. So Maresmo, it's not 100% her, like, responsibility, the way she thinks about that and the way that she planned everything, because you are right, that situation, the culture, the institutional culture, um, can mold people to do things they wouldn't normally do.
Mhm.
Um, so that's why it's so important to be. It's important that someone asked her that question, because otherwise
Yes,
you wouldn't know that that's what she was thinking.
yes, very much. Well done, Catherine.
um, I think the last thing to talk about that I've got written is
Hmm.
the sexualization of female tennis players.
Yes,
And it's always been like Maria Sharapova
yes,
and Anna Kournikova, and just putting these women up on pedestals and making their physical appearance be, they're the most famous ones.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, you probably know about the famous tennis poster with the
yeah.
bum. Yeah,
Yeah.
everyone knows that one. I mean, that's kind of sums it up, really. Um, Obviously, women are more sexualized. There are, like, because of the way they have to dress, the tennis clothes that they wear, the way that they look after the spare tennis balls by, like, shoving them up their skirt all the time. I don't understand how that's comfortable to play, but I don't know. And then, obviously, you do get some women wearing shorts, but they're a rarity, definitely. But even then, they're very tight-fitting short shorts. So, uh, yeah, I think certainly the tennis fashion has a lot to do with it. Also, the media around tennis, even people commentating on matches, they'll focus in on a women's match and they'll say about the winner, and she sums it up with a lovely smile. They always talk about women's smiles, and it gets really irritating because you wouldn't look at a men's match and say, and he's got the best smile. I mean, obviously, some male tennis players are also sexualized. Take Matteo Berrettini, for example, the Italian player who got to the final last year. A lot of talk was around how attractive he was rather than the tennis he was playing. To be fair, I sat not very far away from him. He was very attractive, but that's beside the point. I found myself looking at him more than the actual match. But again, bad feminist, bad.
I'm feminist, but yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I know. But like, I mean, humans are attractive, some humans more than others, which is also fine. But to talk about women in general by the way they look, I mean, the obvious egregious example was someone I hate, John Inverdale, when he used to present the French Open, saying of Marion Bartoli, who was an active player at the time, she's no looker, but she plays a good game. Which has stuck with me for many years since, and has always been a awkward thing when Marion later joined the presenting team and had to work alongside John Infidel. which must have been fun for her. But yeah, I just think that kind of sums up my attitude to the way that some people in the media view women in sport, and particularly the egregious example of John Inverdale, who I never like. But,
I wonder if he was the one who asked, I can't remember who the tennis player was, but he asked her to give the crowd a twirl.
Yes, that sounds very much like something he would do. But also recently someone asked Iga Swiatek about why she didn't wear any makeup in a press conference. And Catherine was talking about it on the podcast, and she was like, that was the one bad question in the press conference. And apparently Iga handled it really well. And she just said, I think she just deflected it really well and just kind of gave an answer that basically said, why are you asking me that question, kind of thing. But it was just very odd how the focus is on like, oh, other women wear loads more makeup and have loads more fun outside off the court. Why don't you? You know, just because she's quieter and happens to not wear much makeup.
She should have shoved a tennis racket up his ass.
Yeah, I can't remember what exactly she said. It was it'll be somewhere on the Twitter. But yeah, that was very recently. I think that was after she won the French Open this year. Yeah.
There's such a sense of entitlement to the personal lives of these professionals, and journalists feel completely comfortable talking about their underwear, talking about smiling, talking about makeup.
Yeah.
There's the two things I remember like standing out are Simona Halep. She was always focused on because she has very large breasts, and she actually got a breast reduction surgery to make playing easier.
I remember actually. That was ages ago. Yeah, you've just brought it back into my head. So yeah, she's one of my favourite players. And she only just played on centre court yesterday, and she's a former Wimbledon champion. Again, scheduling nightmare is often a topic of contention, where they put people in, and how the big names are always put on centre court no matter what. Because that's the most expensive and most prestigious court. And of course, only certain people get to play there. But yeah, really, it does defy belief that Halep has only just played on centre, considering she won in 2019.
Yeah.
Again,
it speaks to the culture of the people doing it, because I'm of the opinion that there is always an answer that is mutually beneficial for everyone. So, for example, the disabled toilets. There's a simple answer of going, everyone who comes in here, we need to make it tennis is for everyone. This new era of tennis, we're going to make Wimbledon the most progressive tournament ever, and we can have all of the toilets. Every single toilet is thought of as equal, rather than thinking you do the normal toilets, the normal toilets, and you do the disabled toilets. And thinking, just that's where it comes to adults in the room rather than
it's like they were saying
to the powerful.
It's like they were saying, oh, disabled people won't need to use the toilets at this time of day. They'll only turn up at whatever time of day we decide to clean them or whatever.
Jesus.
I don't know. It just struck me as odd. Yeah.
I just remember there being the focus on. I imagine that she got a lot of questions about breast reduction. I think, why are you talking about my breasts?
Yeah. Yeah. I completely forgotten that happened. I will have to check it actually, because it's fallen out of my brain. But yeah.
And then there's also a phenomenon which I think has improved but hasn't entirely gone away, is the sexualization of the young female tennis players So the most recent example is Emma Raducanu,
Yes.
and she was only turned 18, I think, last year.
Yes, she's still very young.
And she was 17 when she won. What
The
Grand
US
Slam did
Open.
she win?
The US Open, yeah.
And there's that. So there's the point where if they're under the age of 18, it's illegal to sexualize them. But then there's the second that they turn 18, all of a sudden that part of the conversation comes in.
Yeah.
On the plus side, I think it is seen as far less acceptable. That's not as mainstream.
Yeah.
Whereas 20 years ago, that was the point. So take Britney Spears and Billie Eilish. The way that Britney Spears has been treated, and she was just sexualized completely horrifyingly all over the world. And that's completely different with Billie Eilish. They have a lot more personal agency. Have you seen anything? Emma Raducanu's out of this tournament now, isn't she?
She is. She went out in the, let me check, second round. Where did she go? She got here somewhere. It's taking me this long to find her. That's not a good sign.
I bet that she
went
has.
Out pretty early. Yes, sorry, go on.
I bet that she has close to £100 million now.
I expect so. All of her money, most of it, actually, probably more of her money this last year has come from sponsors.
Oh, that's the thing.
Got as a result of winning the US Open, which is fine, and she wants to do that, and that's fine. But I think a lot of people are worried about how vulnerable that makes her and the platform that, or at least the exposure that she's getting, and at such a young age and so quickly. And I know that she's already had a lot of issues around a stalker that she's had to deal with, which wasn't very nice to read about at all. And I'm sure that is something that's really impacted on her mentally. And then I think she has spoken about being anxious to go about her life normally now as a result, which is pretty awful. So yeah, I think there's a balance to be struck between how much publicity you allow yourself to be a part of and how much you choose to not be a part of. But there's no question that she's earning an awful lot of money from sponsors. Yeah.
I think from my impression is that she's got a very good team around her
very much.
And now, so like 20 years ago, it would have been completely acceptable for Playboy to instantly say, to be in talks with her people.
I think there's an awareness there now that she is incredibly vulnerable and exposed to these sorts of things, and that there is a need to protect her from that side of things as well. I think that's definitely clear.
Yeah, I hope that because people like John McEnroe and people commenting on her, those are the people you need. Strong people around you to say that doesn't matter, that doesn't matter, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Again, the adults in the room who care about her, not about all of the money.
Yeah, and I also think she's very mature for her age, and she's expressed that in the way that she speaks, in the way that she views her game and her career. And I hope that she continues with that maturity and that level of awareness. And I'm pleased for her. But yeah, I think people expect so much of her now because she's gone and won a Grand Slam from qualifying, which no one has ever done in the men's or women's game ever, really. So it's a completely new thing. But it's going to take time for her to get used to the tour. And she needs that time, and she needs people to get off her back. And I think that that's the only fair thing now for her, is to just let her have that time.
Yeah. I to my detriment, what was I finding? Like looking for examples of. I think I was googling. However, I arrived at it. An article from Daily Star where the title is "Tennis star Eugenie Bouchard wears tiny bikini on beach after skipping Wimbledon."
Yeah.
I'm thinking that you think that that's just the Daily Star. Come on, that feels like
they're just scraping the barrel there, really, aren't they? Also, weirdly enough, I'd forgotten Ginny Bouchard existed until she announced that she wasn't playing Wimbledon. I thought she'd retired years ago because I just hadn't seen her play. I think she's dropped down the rankings quite a bit, but she was heralded as the next big thing quite a few years ago from Canada. She was another young, attractive, model-esque type player, if I will use that term, that everyone was very, very much focusing their attention on. But she's dropped off the radar for the last couple of years, certainly in my experience of watching tennis. And then when she put out a statement saying she wasn't going to play, I was like, oh, she's still playing. I didn't know. But yeah, to focus in on wearing a tiny bikini on a beach, like, yes, that's part of life. What is new? Do we need to know about it? Do we care? Why do we need to care about that? I don't know.
Hopefully it's getting a little
frustrating, but yes. But then it is the Daily Star, so yeah. What do we expect?
Fun fact: about 75% of British print media is owned by billionaires,
which again says a lot. I think. I don't know if that much, but yeah, I shouldn't.
It's just just don't read them. Look for primary sources. And I enjoy looking at the way things are written as much as what they're writing about.
Yeah.
For example, the Telegraph is always their conclusion to everything is we should be redistributing wealth from normal people into the pockets of corporations, the powerful. And it's so interesting always looking at their headlines and then the tagline, and you go, oh yeah, I see the framing that you're doing. Very well done.
Yes.
Bastards.
It's always fun.
I've gone through everything on my list. Is there anything else we haven't talked about?
I think I covered pretty much everything I wanted to talk about. Definitely scheduling. And the way they focus on women's smiles quite a lot. That was definitely a point I wanted to raise. Until other things happen, which I'm sure they will before the end of this week, I think I've exhausted everything I want to say, and I think we've covered an awful lot of ground. So well done to us, because it's a big topic, and there's plenty of avenues you could go down.
Yeah, this has been awesome and fascinating and cool, and I want to go and watch some more Wimbledon now. All of that, we have been gaming the system. Thank you, everyone, so much for watching or listening. We have been looking at our podcast statistics in the last few days, and we have people listening. We know where you are. We know we can find out where the countries are, and we've got people from 46 countries listening, which fantastic. Is awesome, showing it's that there are.
Hello to you.
Gaming feminists of the world unite, and we'd love to hear from you and what you think. The best way to do that is to comment on the app where you get your podcasts, and or if you're watching, you can type a comment as well. Not only does that let us know what you think, it lets us know what you want to see, what you care about. And yeah, until next time, every Thursday you'll find something from us. Bye-bye.
Bye.
We hope you enjoyed that episode of Gaming the System. If you want to support us, you can donate to us through our PayPal by sending it to wearegamingthesystem@gmail.com if you want to send us a one-off donation. If you want to donate to us monthly, you can subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/gamingthesystem. Until next time, bye-bye.